Namaskar. Good afternoon. On behalf of the National Center for the Performing Arts, Mumbai, very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for a special series, fourth session in this special series curated keeping in mind the performing artists, especially in these pandemic times. And at the outset, we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to HSBC. It's only because of their wholehearted support that we are able to carry forth this series as well as some other initiative of ours. Thank you so much, HSBC. We began this series with the opening session on understanding the digital space. Thereafter, we moved on to understanding the psychological stress that artists feel, especially during the endemic, epidemic times, and also how to manage that stress. It was a very interesting session. Thereafter, we talked about in the third session, the third workshop was on understanding the legal issues like copyright, etc., arising in the digital domain, which is new to all of us. Today, we will have, as we know, a session on the sound technology, what we call as the artist on both sides of the microphone. And finally, we will end up this series with a session on how to manage your finances because one may be self-employed and also adding to that the woes of these difficult times that we are facing. So this is the whole series. Coming to today's session, we feel extremely privileged and proud to have with us Mr. Gaurav Chopra, an award-winning acoustician, sound engineer, and I think more importantly, he's a performing artist, a par excellence ghazal singer, and above all a friend also, dear friend. So we are so happy to have you, Gauravji, with us, and we look forward to getting enlightened about, you are the best example of artist on both the sides of the microphone. So we want to be inspired, we want to be trained tutor by you today. So thank you for accepting our invitation, Gauravji. Before I hand over the microphone to Gauravji, I'd like to make two small announcements. One is that the recordings of all the sessions, including today's, are available on our website. So if you have missed any session, you may please log on and avail the benefit of those sessions that you have missed. Also today, you may have some questions that we request you to post on the chat box so that Gauravji can take it forward after at the end of the session. We will have a session about an hour or so. Let's see, and then we will take up your question answer. So thank you once again, all of you. Thank you, Gauravji, and over to you, Gaurav.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this initiative by NCPA, supported by HSBC. Very required in these times. We've all gone through in the last 6-8 months a very crazy, if I may say, confusing situation in life. There has been a shift from what I call the physical world to the virtual world, and we've all been struggling with it. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say we all have, because there are a lot of people, who have been very comfortable with digital platforms of networking, if I may say so. I'm very bad at networking, so social networking is very far, but I'm learning, and thanks to this, if I can say thanks to this circumstances that we all are in, I've learned quite a bit of reaching out to people using the digital medium. And I must say it's an eye-opener, because we are all, it's very easy to now connect with everyone thanks to portable devices such as the mobile phone, laptops, things like that. We are all looking at new ways of connecting. There may be different kinds of apps, whether it's video conferencing, whether it is Facebook for a live presentation, whether it is Instagram for a live presentation. They're all various mediums which are helping us reach out to people. Unfortunately or fortunately, mainstream artists or old school artists like me also, we rely a lot on eye contact response from an audience. Like, for example, I'm speaking today, but I can't look into the eyes of my audience and see a reaction, if I may say so. So it's quite a it's quite a strange, de-alienating situation, but we're all learning to surpass it, and that's what I have really had to speed learn in this last 6-8 months, and that's what I'm sharing with you all today. And as I joke about that, with all of us wearing masks, in fact, eye contact is now the most instructive medium. We say now we all speak from our eyes now a lot more than just our sound, our voices. So if I can take things forward, there's not too much I'm going to be speaking today. I will be speaking a lot, but I'll be demoing as much as possible. And there's not too much of data as such which I'm sharing, but there's a lot of it available on the internet. And if one really wants to study things further, you can definitely reach out. Even this particular, as Suvarnaji has said, this particular episode that we are doing today and this presentation today will be available for you to go back, because some of the things may be a little too technical for the first time of hearing. But I would really recommend that you do go through these in detail, because it is an eye-opener simply for communication, just a better way. So if you look at communication, there are, as I said, there's live streaming, which has a unique thing that when you're going Facebook Live or when you're going Instagram Live, it is a one-way presentation. That is that you are presenting and you get the full bandwidth of performance time or a speech time or whatever you're doing, whatever you're speaking. Nobody else is speaking back with you. It's all texting back with you. Now, what is a two-way form of communication? That's video conferencing or simple telephone that we use, our telephones that we are using. That is a two-way communication system. Now, all of this is basically influenced by the internet speed. When you're on a mobile, it could be Wi-Fi. Then if you have a good speed of Wi-Fi, that's good. If you're in spaces where you're using your data, then obviously your speeds may not be the same, though they claim to be, but very rarely, because it's dependent on the towers which are basically providing you the connectivity. So that influences also the quality of your audio and your video, because if you have a slow internet speed, then the software like Facebook or any of the apps that you have, they automatically reduce the quality so that the communication can still happen. The live stream can still go through, and the first thing to suffer obviously is audio and sound, both those two things, so that they can still maintain connectivity and throughput. So as I said, there are many tutorials online. If you can see it, you can go through. But one very interesting thing which I would like to share with everyone, and since I come from the world of sound, obviously I have a passion for it. I very often say that people can forgive a poor quality of a video in a particular presentation, but bad sound is completely unforgivable, because if I was not coming across clearly to you, but I was not seen so clearly, I can still carry forward that communication time, whether it's a presentation or whatever. Of course, if it is something which is dependent on a clothes or a dress sense or a visual presentation, makeup and stuff like that, obviously the video quality is equally important. But for today's scope, which I'm looking at, is more from the point of view of being able to present sound better to each of us. So let's quickly get into this. There are basically two kinds of devices, which I often say. One is mobile devices and the other is desktop devices. Now, desktop is obviously your computer at home, your PC or your whatever you have. And laptop is kind of similar to that, because laptop also has a lot more connectivity options. The main difference between the two is basically connectivity. How do you connect to your device? Now, thanks to the pandemic, there were not many options available in the past for connectivity to the phone. There were, I wouldn't say there were not, because I myself have, because artists travel everywhere and they like to travel light. So if you have A guitarist, for example, would be looking for a connection straight into his phone. So there have been companies which have been releasing products in the last 1 year wherein you can connect to your phone directly, but the options are very limited. Obviously, connectivity to a laptop and desktop was pretty high. So let's just start with, what do we have? Let's say a mobile phone or a tablet. If you look at what are the normal connections in a mobile phone, most of the mobile phones, as you have all seen, have moved over time. You had what we call the OTG connector. The OTG, what does OTG stand for? On the go. So this was developed basically that if you could use it as a multi-input device. When it first came out, there were not many uses for it. It was just a powering, how to charge your phone with that. Now, whether you have an Android, then you have a Lightning connector. If you are on Android, you have a Type-C or a micro USB. If you're an Apple, then it's a Lightning, obviously. Apart from this, for your sound, there used to be, or there still is in some majority, you have a headphone output. Now these mini headphone outputs have suddenly have got a huge market comeback now. They didn't. I'm talking about 30 years ago when they used to have a Walkman, and that's where this small connector was developed. And now it's probably got back a second life completely with mobile phones. So those are the normal ways to connect as an input as well as an output. Initially, these were all output and input for battery charging your phone. But as time developed, these things changed. So another thing linked to this, apart from the sound, as I'm coming to, is the camera. Now, the convenience of having a camera of a mobile phone defeats completely anything else where you have to go in and try and connect your laptop to something. Now, why am I taking a little time on this is because, as many people find it very convenient and they say the quality of the mobile phone camera is much better than that, which is true, because most laptops do not have a full HD webcam. Now, they'll all try and tell you it's HD, but it's actually 720. Okay, but now more and more laptops, because as I said, the situation has forced everyone, do now have a 1080p or a full HD web camera. So you can manage with that inbuilt. It's convenient. Now, if you had a desktop, obviously you would have to figure out other ways to connect, and I'll share with you what are the possibilities of that also. Now, I'm showing you an image here. This image is basically just to tell you convenience vis-a-vis the so-called quality. Now you can see the size, the red part that you see is actually the size of what is called a DSLR camera. So that's how big the sensor is, and the sensor is actually what decides the quality of the image that you're seeing. No doubt that it's going to be seen on a small screen like a phone or maybe a laptop, so it's all fine. I mean, it's technically HD, which is fine. But you can see how small the smartphone sensor is. It's that small little thing inside. And it's that small, so obviously the quality, if I may say, quote unquote, is definitely going to be far superior, more forgiving, if I may say, on a DSLR camera. Now, why am I saying this? Because, for example, if you do constantly you're doing presentations, then a good camera always helps, because it is more sensitive to the light around you, so it is able to give a smooth image rather than something which is harsh. So a mobile phone is not designed specifically for that, but there are ways to go around that. So that was the visual part, and that is the reason why very often it's convenient to just go with a phone camera. But then a phone provides limitations on what is the best way to connect to it, and what are the options of connecting to it, because by default the phone uses the inbuilt microphone. So this brings me to an interesting thing and explaining to you what are the types of microphones which you can look at. So you have, for example, what we call a lav mic. Now you're not able to see it. Let me move this mic out. So these are what we call lav mics or lavalier mics or lapel mics. We use this a lot in presentations. A lot of people have been using it in presentations. Obviously, when you're on doing dialogue for a feature film, these mics are hidden in your clothes very often. Very convenient to work with, have a good texture of sound too. But what are the limitations? I'll just come to for each of them. You have dynamic mics, which is what I'm using currently. This is a dynamic mic. Not designed, not the best to be placed very far away. The best sound obviously comes when you're closer to it. Now, again, I'll go into a demo for all of this shortly. Then, of course, you have condenser, which is large and small condenser mics. They're much more sensitive mics. But understand one thing, that more sensitivity obviously means that it also picks up a lot more surrounding noise around you. Now, the texture would be better, but you have to figure it out whether that's what you want or you're okay with the ambience around you. That's why we don't use condenser mics on a live show on stage very often, because the reflections of the auditorium or the stage can come back and cause a lot of feedback. Then you have stage monitors, which become a problem because, again, the condenser mic should be placed a little further away for the texture. The third option is what we call a shotgun mic. Now, shotgun mics are basically mics which are used, I'll show you an image of it a little later, which is used basically for, they have a speciality that you can place that mic. It's called shotgun because suppose that this mic is at 1 inch or let's say 3 inches. The shotgun mic can be placed at maybe 1.5 feet or so, or maybe even 3 feet. And the kind of texture it will give you will be similar to this, what you're hearing, close micing. So shotgun mics are used a lot in shoots pretty much. And now, thanks to this situation where people are vlogging a lot, so you have a lot of possibility of use for that too. So why am I talking about the mics? Because each of these mics has a certain characteristic of a pickup. This particular mic that I'm speaking in has something called a cardioid pattern, shaped like a heart. So it only picks up from the front, very well, just pick up from the back, but very minimal. Now the disadvantage of this mic is that you see, even if I move so subtly, I've moved so subtly away, the texture of my voice just changes so drastically. It's just moving. Can you see the difference? So it's very sensitive to my my proximity. Now, one of the things, a negative effect of what we call proximity effect, is that as I speak closer, my bass goes up. But then some people love that. And in fact, very often when you're doing some singing, for example, so I can basically go down to another note and go closer. So I can use that to my benefit. The other kind of popular extension of a cardioid mic is what we call a supercardioid or a hypercardioid. The benefit of that is it's even tighter, so you have much less potential of feedback happening when you're singing on stage. Now, obviously, when you're doing live streaming or you're doing even a video presentation or a video conference, that may not be such an issue because it's tight enough anyway. Then another interesting is what we call figure of 8, which is it picks up from both sides. But that is normally in what we call in a situation where you may have 2 interviews or 2 singers sitting across and doing it. There are new mics being launched for basically for singers. So if you have 2 singers singing, you can have this mic placed in the middle and it picks up from both sides. So consequently, both of you can have a reasonably equal level. Rough distancing you can adjust by volume, you can adjust by distance. The most popular pattern, which is called an omni, is a mic which picks up from all sides. So let me give you an example of an omni mic. Let me put this off. So what I'm now on is my lapel mic or my lav mic. As you can see, it picks up a lot more of room ambience, and it picks up a lot more of the general ambience around me. You may be able to hear my AC. It'll also pick up this rustle from my cloth. But if it's placed correctly, the benefit that you have with this is that, see, I'm moving so much, but my texture is pretty much remaining the same, as I speak. And in fact, if you can see, the mic is actually placed upside down. So it's not even pointing up. but it's still giving me a consistent texture right now. So this is great if you want to do presentations where you don't want your, you want to move a little and you're a fidgety person. So this is perfect for that. But to just extend to you what happens when, if you have a phone. Now visualize your phone. Your phone also has a similar kind of mic inside it. It is powered by the battery of the phone. Now if you are going to be singing and you're going to have the phone, let's say, placed using the phone mic, and the phone is, let's say, 2 feet, 3 feet away, or maybe 5 feet away, then imagine that the phone mic has gone that far back because the mic has moved with the phone. So if I'm going to sing from here, this is how I'm going to sound. Baat karni. Let's have some reverb. बात करनी मुझे मुश्किल कभी ऐसी तो न थी. That's how I'm going to sound when I'm so far away, when the phone mic is being used. But जैसी अब है तेरी महफिल कभी ऐसी तो न थी बात करनी. Now if you see the poignantness, or if I may say the irony of this the composition and the ghazal that I have chosen. Ghazal is written by Bahadur Shah Zafar, and the composition is made famous by Mehdi Hasan Saab. And I think the shairi is so ironical because it says baat karni mujhe mushkil kabhi aisi to na thi. So difficult to communicate today. Jaisi ab hai teri mehfil kabhi aisi to na thi. We never had digital mehfils like this before. So I'm going to use this as an interesting example through on how different ways to use. Now when I explained to you how this mic, I'm moving here and there, the texture doesn't change much. As I said, if it was on your phone, it's going to sound so far away, So most people are putting up stuff which is like this because you can't keep your phone next to you. Obviously the phone is going to be behind. And it's nice if you can have a mic connected to it like this, which you can then bring the mic closer to you, and the phone can still be further away. And whether it's an instrument, whether it is your voice, it's lovely to be able to do a presentation like this. So let me put this back one sec. So that pretty much brings to clarity on the two specific kinds of mic I spoke about. One was a cardioid pattern, which is a dynamic mic like this, and then the other is, as I explained to you, the omnidirectional pattern, which is on my lapel mic, which I am wearing. Now I'm back to the dynamic mic. Now, as I explained to you earlier, the shotgun mic, as you see on the image there, is even more focused, and it picks up from a further distance. So you could place this mic, let's say, 2 feet, 3 feet, 2 feet away. More than that, again, it'll be not right. But let's say 1.5, 2 feet away. So you have the flexibility of movement if you want. But do realize that, yes, the further away the mic, the more the room and the response, ambience it picks up. So now I'm going to require the help of Dhanya and Bhakti. What I'm going to try and do now is, all this has been presented to you through my laptop. Now I'm going to try and present to you something straight from the phone. Let's see. So I'm going to join in as part of the phone. Okay, so here goes. So basically, as I said, the first option I'm going to look at is what is called the headphone connector. This headphone connector is something which the mics also come with, apart from the USB. I'll show you both. Now this is another lav mic I have just for the presentation. The lav mic has a headphone out, a headphone connection. Sorry, not a headphone out, headphone connection. So I'm going to connect this mic now and shut off my mic. So now I'm on this meeting using this mic, which is now connected to my phone, as you can see. Now it's connected through the headphone head. Sorry, this is very confusing between left and right. Where am I? Where am I? Yeah. You can see that. So that's how it's connected. Now, same way as I said, if I have the phone placed further away, this mic is close to me, and you're hearing the sound in this Zoom presentation using this lav mic and not my two mics. In case you're getting confused, I'm moving this mic away. Now, again, as I said, as I move this mic further away, you can see how your phone mic would have sounded if I was using the phone mic itself. Or let me see if I can use switch. Well, okay, let me leave this presentation. So as you can see that having an external mic like this connected through the mic, a combination jack on the phone, there is a way that I can have much cleaner sound. So even if I'm doing a live stream at home, I could do it using this. If I'm doing a video conference, I could use this. If, for example, I want to record something on my phone, I could use this. But this presents, a lot of complications, if I may say. Why? Because there are three issues which come up. The connector issue, the communication, whether it's one way or two way, as I said, when a video conferencing vis-a-vis the live streaming, which is one way. And the biggest problem is the apps themselves. Now, each of these apps keeps constantly updating. And for example, if I want to use such a mic, let's say even for my phone calls, I can't use it. The app doesn't allow me. If I want to use this kind of a mic for WhatsApp video calls, I can't use it. In fact, even the stock video shooting app, which comes with many of the phones, does not allow me to bypass the mic of the camera of the phone. And I still have to, when I start shooting a video, it'll automatically go to that. So what I did say earlier is that I am now connected to this using this particular connector, which is a 1/8 inch, if I may say. That's what is the headphone jack. So this mic, the lav mic that you're hearing right now, is connected straight to my phone, and I'm part of this meeting, as you can see. Now, if I may say, if you have missed out, what I said is that as the mic goes away, so for example, if you're using the internal mic of the phone, and that would obviously be 2 or 3 feet away, so that's how I'm going to sound from there. So once again, let's hear Bahadur Shah Zafar and Mehdi Saab. बात करनी मुझे, it's at a distance, see? मुश्किल कभी ऐसी तो न थी बात करनी. So now you could use the phone mic if you want, or I would suggest you use something like this. The lav mic is not the one on my shirt. Don't get confused right now. One second, let me. It's actually in my hand right now. But yes, you could put it on your shirt. So right now, it's on my shirt. So that's how you're hearing it. I just took it off in my hand so that you could see if it was a phone and it was further away the mic, that's what it would be. So okay, so now this is an example of if I was connecting it straight to the phone using the headphone jack. Now I keep saying it's an headphone jack, but over a period of time it's become a combination jack, and it also has a mic input from there. But obviously the moment you connect just a high quality mic to this, then it disconnects the speaker output or the headphone output. But through Zoom, I have the option of enabling the speaker of the phone, and I could hear you speaking from there through the speaker of the phone. That is one way to do it. Now let me disconnect this and show to you another very interesting way and high quality way to get onto your phone. So now we've all been hearing about I keep saying the OTG connector. the OTG connector, the on-the-go connector. I have an Android. You could have, if you have an Apple, it could be the Lightning port. In my case, it's a Type C port. So I have a mic, which is a high-quality mic, which is basically a large diaphragm condenser. And that mic has an output which is a USB, and I'm going to connect that USB mic now directly to my phone. I've done that, but in some phones you have to enable power supply to this mic because this mic requires power. So all the more reason to be important that if you're going to do so many things from your phone, make sure that your battery is fully charged. Otherwise, in the middle of your presentation, the battery can die because all these things need power. So now I've got the OTG connector. You can see that it automatically shifted to this mic. Now, this mic was far away, but just see, this is the richness of texture. Now, this is again directly to the phone. There's nothing, no laptop, no nothing. And same way, it's dependent on the softwares because some apps won't allow you to access this port. But Zoom, for example, is one which does allow it. Obviously, if you're live streaming, you can go straight and through Instagram or whatever, Facebook, whatever you're doing, YouTube live, this would be a lovely way to sing and see the texture, the grain is there. But as I explained, condenser mics are very sensitive, and I love the texture from some of these. You could, for example, even keep it slightly away and pointing upwards to you, so you don't know that I'm using the mic, but nor does the somebody watching. But I could also sing well with this. Now, obviously, since I'm not going through the best way, I don't have access to things like reverb and all of that. But listen, nonetheless. बात करनी मुझे मुश्किल कभी ऐसी तो न थी बात करनी. Sorry for any sur slip-ups because I'm not able to hear the Tanpura properly. It's going through the other way. But and there's a light lag because I'm listening to myself come back through the Zoom conversation. So another important aspect to consider, there is a latency involved, slight delays which are involved between what I'm actually singing here or speaking here and what's coming back to me from the headphone over there. So lovely. Now you've seen that it's swapping so easily between the various ways. So I first showed you the 1/8 inch, which is equally good connected to your lapel mic, and this is using the Type C port. You can have a lightning adapter and use this also on an iPhone. But see the difference. You have lots of options available in the market for this, which have picking up from both sides, which pick up from all sides. As I said, this is a cardioid, so it picks up more from the front and suffers with the same problem that as I point even a little bit away, it starts changing texture. But because it's a condenser and not a dynamic mic, which I showed mentioned earlier, this is it has a lot more possibility of richer texture being a little away, and I can still get that. So, but singing style also decides a lot of things, because if you're a person who sings very soft, baat karni, whereas somebody sings ले गया छीन के कौन आज, so you can definitely take this further away and even keep it out of the frame if necessary. Okay, enough talking. Now let's see what is next. Let me get off the phone first. Thank you. I'm now going to get back to the condenser, the cardioid mic, which is a dynamic. So I showed you the two other possibilities which are there. The same kind of mics are also available to be used, on any setup. It's not something which is, it can even work with a normal mixer. Now, what is, one sec, so let me see here. the complexity which I was talking about with the 1/8 inch or the headphone jack, as I explained to you, in the olden days, the headphone jack just has, you could use a headset mic like this, and the most popular way people you see walking on the streets, they have a headphone connected and they're holding up the mic as they're walking. You know, the mic is in their mouth virtually when they're speaking, because that became a part of what they call a combi mic, combi connector, sorry, and that allowed you to have headphone output as well as a mic through the same thing. But how was that possible? So it was possible by a connector shift like this. So it's important to understand only this for those people who are looking at, when you sometimes connect a mic straight to your DSLR camera, or you connect a mic to your phone, you may have an old mic, which is also a tie mic, but that mic doesn't have this fourth possibility of connector, which is that the new combi connectors where the mic has power has 4 rings to it, whereas the older ones have a 3 ring to it. So it's important to know this, because if you connect the wrong kind of connector to the phone, it either disconnects the mic or connects the mic and disconnects the headphones. So that's the only question which you need to understand. If you're looking at just live streaming, then you don't need to worry about it. It straight away goes, the mic will go, because you're not waiting to hear somebody else. But if you will want to use it for VC and for Zoom and video conferencing, you need to hear the other person. Zoom is very nice because it allows you the option of enabling your speaker on your phone, so you don't need the headphone out, and you can use the mic input from there. But it gets more complex if you don't want to do that and you want to also be able to hear headphone plus the mic. So for that, I don't recommend getting into, because that's a very complex cabling method which somebody has to make for you. I went through hell trying to understand it, and then after a while I just gave it up. So what are the other ways now? Let me just get back to my... So people were asking, what is my setup, or what's the way to go about it? So the next, if we move away from the phone, obviously the best thing to do is, in my opinion, the correct way to do it if you can, but obviously has a lot more complexity. There is using a laptop or using your desktop of your computer. Now, obviously the benefits are that it has a lot more USB ports. You can connect a lot more things. There is the processing power of the software. For the software is great. You can use softwares, which I'm using a software like OBS, which allows me to do a lot of things. For example, if I want to be able to, you can see my name is there on the top. If I want to be able to do something like this, one sec, where is it? Yes. So you can see now my name is going in the bottom as a ticker. GauravChopra.com can happen. All that can happen. So all these things are possible only if you go through a software like OBS, but it tends to use a lot of processing power, and you need to have a reasonably good laptop for that. You can use streaming specialist apps, as I said. There are various companies now which are allowing you to bypass all this complexity, and they are menu driven or icon driven, and you can just go straight and use it as a streaming. Streamlabs, for example, is one of them. Now a laptop suffers from one problem, as I said earlier, that it has a low resolution webcam. So how have I circumvented it? So this is how I've circumvented it. Now you can get something called a capture card, and the generic word for it is a cam link, which basically connects your DSLR cameras or anything, a video camera, even your gaming port output straight to your laptop. Now it's confusing because you think that your laptop already has an HDMI port, so why do I need it? But that HDMI port on your laptop is actually an output, it's not an input. So to enable that, you need to have something like this, which basically converts your HDMI output straight to USB. So you can access it as a USB device on your setup. And obviously, the more complexity it gets, the more knowledge you need to have, the more awareness you need to have. And, sometimes I'll come to that later. Okay. So what is the best way to get sound? Now, obviously, the best way to get sound is to have an audio interface. I have an audio interface in my signal flow right now, and an audio interface is something which changes the whole thing because it's a multi-input source. You can connect your mics to it, you can connect your keyboard to it. So So I have my keyboard connected. Sorry, I lost one headphone. I took that off for the presentation with listening to myself back from my own voice in Zoom, so you could see what the phone was sounding like, and I could check it. So now you can see that this is I can play my keyboard, which is connected to my sound card, and then you have possibility of reverb from there. You can most of the high quality or the more capable sound cards also have inbuilt mixers, which you can use to route the output to. But the best part which is changing now is that thanks to the circumstances and people going online so much, there's a lot more available now where you can have your audio interfaces not power hungry. They didn't need power supply so much. They will run off your phone power. So now you can connect them straight to your mobile phones. And you can use an audio interface directly with your phone. So great. I mean, that's lovely. And of course, the next level is what I have right now. So this is my current setup, wherein I have a mic which is connected to, and a keyboard which is connected to a mixer. I just felt that this is a little more, you could easily bypass the mixer and, as I said, go straight to the audio interface. But this gives me a benefit of both worlds because I happen to have one already. And I can add very conveniently without having to fidget with my audio interface settings. I can simply add reverb to my voice like this, and I can straight away start. So just to now give you my presentation again. So बात करनी मुझे मुश्किल कभी ऐसी तो न थी बात करनी जैसी अब है तेरी महफिल कभी ऐसी तो न थी बात करनी. So as I explained with the dynamic mic, you can actually play with your textures and you can get a particular sound that you want to get. If you go loud, ले गया छीन के कौन आज तेरा सब्रो करार. Though I prefer this particular shade because it's also applies today, as we said, looking into people's eyes. उनकी आँखों ने खुदा जान किया क्या जादू की तबीयत मेरी माइल कभी ऐसी तो न थी बात करनी. So this is obviously the optimum way to do it, but it's not something which I want. I really want to say something today that at the end of the day, it's your music that really matters. All these things definitely help, to do a good presentation and reach out. But it should not be disheartening that if you don't have all of this, you won't sound good, because at the end of the day, it's your music which really speaks, or your, whatever you're performing. So even if the mic was further away, it's fine as long as your music holds it, if I may say so. And that's there's a saying in Hindi, we say, "Sone pe suhaga." So this is literally "Sone pe suhaga." Now, translating that to English, it loses it completely. Another analogy which works close by in English is icing on the cake. So, but where's cake and where is gold? So, at the end of the day, yes, it's more important your presentation. And I keep saying that, if the tech part is confusing, and if you can, reach out to friends who are sound sound engineers or who are knowledgeable about it. Involve them with you for your presentations when it's a complex presentation. If you're doing something at home, I've given you many suggestions which you can do and get away with it and get good sound. But if you're doing a presentation which is professional, get involve some of your friends, or hire somebody if you can, budget it. And now more and more sponsors are getting into this situation, so hopefully that should also change, and use their services, and focus on the performance rather than the technical part. So this brings me to an interesting aspect which I talk about, and that is basically your space that you're performing in. Why is it so crucial? This is going to be a tough part for me because I have to actually physically move out of my room to show you that. But why is it so important? Now, fundamentally understand one thing, that people get confused between soundproofing. They say, soundproofing hui hai. We've done soundproofing. Now, soundproofing is a generic word, but actually it comprises two parts, and one is isolation and the other is absorption. Isolation is pretty much not part of our scope, because obviously it means you have to have a kind of a studio in place, and that is going to take a little complexity to do. But absorption is what I'm referring to today, is where we are going to slowly look at possibilities of creating a deader space wherein your sound doesn't reverberate. If you have tiled surfaces, like I've said, less reflective surfaces and materials. If you have glass all around, you're sitting on a tiled floor, obviously it's going to reflect a lot, and not the best place to be able to perform. I'll show you what happens to the tonality of sound when you're in such a space. Try and be as away from the noise sources, because at the end of the day, the isolation part is expensive. Even I don't have soundproof windows and doors. Fortunately for me, nobody's cutting granite next door, so I'm lucky today, one of those days. But these are the important aspect of the space. So I'm going to now move out of this space, and you should be able to see what I'm actually getting into right now as I get out. Okay, so now I'm in a new space, and you can see just how resounding this space is. Now, this has bare walls, so you can just see how bad. So if I'm going to be singing in a space like this, it's going to sound really horrible. But at the end of the day, yes, as I said, if you don't have a choice, then that's what many of us end up doing. But avoid spaces like this and worse so if, for example, I don't have the lag. If this was a phone mic, it's going to pick up even more of the reverberation, as you can see. And this mic is further away, because that's where I would presume my phone is going to be. So if I sing here, it's going to be quite reverberative a space. And you see some spaces, sometimes it gets worse. Sometimes if you're away in a corner, it may even get accentuated. So do take that into account. Now let me pin it back on my... So what is a way out? As I said, use surfaces like, you can have your sofas, you must have thick curtains if you're lucky, if you have all of that. Try and throw some cushions into space. Cushions are fine. So I'm giving you just a show of what I did last night. Since I make acoustic panels myself, I did this literally overnight, so sorry they're not finished. But if I just, for example, place this could be just simple cushions also, the same. I wasn't given permission by my wife to strip the house of the cushions, so I had to make all this. And this, if I'm here right now, already you can see that the sound has started getting nice and tight. It's getting pretty tight. Now, another way out is obviously, you can't shoot with this, but you could do just to give an example of a device I'll show you later. You can see how, as I'm in this space, which is absorbing a lot of my frequencies, higher frequencies, and you can hear that the mic is much tighter. It's the same mic which picks up from all around. It's my lav mic, and you see as I open the space out, you can see that again my reverberation has started, but it's still lesser because I have these two panels here. Let me move the panels back out, and you will see that I'm back into a reverberative space. So again, now my voice is back, and you can see how much it's resounding. So think about it when you're doing your presentations, and let me thank my DOP, or Director of Photography today. My daughter has helped me with this. Thank you, Devangi. And let's get back to the presentation. So what I demonstrated to you outside was it's a device which is also used by some people and can be used. It's called a mic shield. Now, similarly to the two panels which I placed, on my two sides, you could have a mic shield like this, which can help you also do a bit of the control of the reverberation in the room, and you can manage a good recording with this as a kind of a stopgap arrangement. But there are two things to be aware about when you do this. Do realize that this does nothing for isolation, as I explained earlier. It won't keep the traffic sounds out, horns out. It won't keep the, I have a kitchen next door and I cannot have, if somebody is washing utensils, obviously those sounds will also come. This will help you, yes, to control the reverb in the room, to make, like if I had something that I explained to you when I was in the other space, you could see the reverberation in the walls. It will definitely help for that. But this needs to be large enough. Most of the ones available in the market, which are cost effective, are pretty expensive and they are small. But if you really want the good ones, they should be at least 18 inches, preferably, 2 feet, 1.5, 2 feet at least in height. And they should 180 degrees, they should 270 degrees, sorry, they should circumvent the circumcise the entire mic. It should have that there. Sorry for a want of the word. Okay. Another important aspect to consider is what we call pop filters. Now, a lot of people see what I have in front of me on my mic, and there have been lots of people ridiculing it and saying that it looks too ugly, it blocks your face, and some people have even said that looks like a dead cat you have there. Now, I'll explain why, but the two most common ways, obviously, is the sponge that you've seen. It's an acoustic foam windshield, which can be put on the mic. Most popular way to control pop filters, pop and blows. The other thing is based on netting material, which can be fitted to your mic stand. Obviously, you can't shoot with that because it blocks your complete thing in the front. It'll be in the front of you, so you won't really use it. But you're able to use, yes, this either of the two as a way. What I have here is something which it's come into my life from when I used to do shoots, sync sound as we call it, and when I would be out in windy situations. So this is called a wind jammer. And that really helps me because I do ghazal, obviously. There's a lot of syllables there which have per, bh, and you can see how easily this handled it. Now, I often joke about it. I used to drive to the studio for many years, and when I used to drive there, I used to pass by a store in Dadar which was called Bhairav Bhandi Bhandar. Now you can see bh, 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 all three, and every time I'd say this is the way to test my mic for blows. So if I take this off, you'll see straight away if I go to Bhairav Bhandi Bhandar. So you can see how bad, even if I try to go a little cross, Bhairav Bhandi Bhandar. So not a great idea, if you can, but whatever works for you. If you prefer, the other way, or you prefer it with this. I prefer using this a lot, so. Okay, so we've pretty much covered quite a bit that I needed to say. There is an interesting development which had happened for how would you do, what kind of shows would you do when this whole pandemic started, and everyone was confused, how do we go about it, and everyone was struggling to find ways to do interesting presentations. So two things which developed, two other forms which developed for live streaming or presentation, which became very popular, was people would be basically, you would see these videos released on people's YouTube channels or whatever, which had multi frames over there, and you had somebody playing something somewhere, somebody playing something somewhere, something, so all edited together. So that is not really done in one shot. Basically, the important thing to understand that everyone who has played in that video, everyone has played to a constant BPM or a beat per minute tempo reference. And whether that is through your, if you're computer savvy and you have a click track playing, a MIDI click track playing in your headphones, and then you record your voice straight onto your phone, or onto your laptop or whatever, that's absolutely fine, because then that click track doesn't get recorded, but you have played to a timing reference. It could be a tabla machine, but you have to ensure that that tabla machine software has a constant digital reference so that the timing is truly BPM, as we call it. So everyone plays to that, and then everyone sends their videos to somebody who edits it together, stitches it together, and it depends on your acting skills as a performer. As to it seems that yes, you were playing together. You look at each other when you do a tihai or something, and then it looks like a well edited presentation. The next, which is the really complex thing to do, which was to basically do things live in different parts of the world and perform together, like another musician in another country, and you do it live. Not that it's not possible, it's absolutely possible, and it's not something which is just been done now. This for many years we've been as a sound engineer, when I'm in the studio, we've often had to connect with artists who are overseas, and they need to dub it, like actors, they need to dub a particular line for a particular film, whether it's an international film. That I do a lot of work for international films. So when that was happening, you would be able to connect like this. And this is not now, I'm talking about even 15, 18 years back. So you could use softwares, your studio recording softwares. They would allow you, it was a plugin which would allow you to do it. Now, the only issue with this was that all of this requires a very stable internet connection, because internet provides a latency. That latency is between your lips and your sound that you play. And also what each of us hears. There is a constant latency that's dependent on the processor in your computer. It's dependent on the internet speed. It's dependent on, so many things which are in the way. If you have your mic connected to via, and then going to your computer, all those things are adding a delay, and your visual is not matching that. So to get all of this in sync, you really need a technical person who's tech savvy and who's a good engineer who understands all this. So if you want to do something like this, I always recommend that don't get into it. Focus on your music, and get somebody who's an engineer or a sound engineer who can do this for you. I can promise you that will be a much better thing to do than you trying to get into it. One last important aspect, if I may get to, let me see now, what am I talking about? Yes, I talk about lighting. Now, it's not something critical, but it's often been said that if you don't light yourself correctly, then what's the point, because people can't see you, people can't react to you. Now, I had a very interesting input from one of my friends who's a very good DOP or director of photography, or a good photographer himself and cinematographer. I spent a lot of time with them, and I listened to them, and I observed what they're doing. And he made a very interesting statement. He said that it's not about the light, it's about the shadows. So you can see the shadows on my clothes, see the shadows, and it gives a reality to it. There's a shadow there's a light above which gives things and stuff. But you don't need to get into that so much. I think most importantly, if you are looking at a presentation, a live stream, just ensure that you have a good light in front of you at least. Because if you don't have a light in front of you, then this is pretty much how your entire presentation is going to go. So it's great. I mean, you can obviously do a presentation like this, but it would be nice, if you have a light source from the front, whether it's an open window, whether it is a simple lampshade which is placed over there, anything which just gives subtle light on your face so that you are presentable. Then, of course, the sky is the limit, because today this pandemic has taught me to try and do something which I'd never done before, and I've obviously seen it being done in a lot of shoots. And that helps you to present yourself with, see, now I'm in another place, my background has changed. And I could work with different backgrounds, and I can keep switching. Now that's my office space that I'm doing my meetings from. And this is my project studio in the outskirts of Mumbai, whereas I can go and spend time and enjoy myself there. So great, now I can always keep changing the background. This involves something which is called green screen or chroma key. It would be great if we can all use it, but just a word of caution, green screen is a nightmare to work with, because the way the light lights the green screen is very important, because otherwise you will end up having a horrible, you look like a ghost which is going in and out of the image. But just to show you what is the green screen as I'm talking about. So if I have, if you want to see, this is the backdrop, but this is how I am in my studio right now. I have a green screen behind me, but you can see that I can just change that in a flash with this, and I'm back in my studio. So I hope this has been useful to all of you, and really one big shout out to Dhanya and Bhakti, because they've really been tolerant with me in trying to make this happen. I really wish to thank Suvarnaji and Kale sir for believing in me. Kale sir, thank you very much, and Suvarnaji once again. HSBC for obviously taking this forward so that we can all share our experiences and pick up from where we left off. And let's see, Dhanya, what do you suggest? Should we look at questions, or are there any questions, if at all? I'm sorry,
Yes,
I've not
there are a
been
lot
paying
of
attention.
questions, Gauravji.
Oh God. Oh God. Okay.
Just putting
right.
them on the panelists so you can see them.
Oh, okay. Where am I? Do you want to, so it's on the chat or it'll be on the questions, Q&A?
Some of them are on the Q&A and some on the chat. I've collated everything and sent them over to you in the panelist section, so you can see them.
Okay, so let me quickly go through this. This is saying open, so I'm sorry, I'm not so familiar with Zoom so much, but I'm learning the hard way. In-ear monitoring, in-ears, very quickly, if I may just say, is a ball game which is very complex. I don't particularly like in-ears, so what I'm using is not an in-ear. It's actually the old-fashioned headphone which was there, which used to basically be sitting on the outside a bit. It's not on the inside. It doesn't go in. But there's no rocket science to it. The difficulty is obviously in an in-ear is that it should take the shape of your ear. And if it's not so great, then you obviously will feel uncomfortable. The other thing is obviously what you send to your ear is very critical, because you're hearing it now straight on your eardrum and not through a monitor. But yes, the way to go is in-ear in the long run, because it definitely removes the potential of feedback completely. Like if you have a Zoom conversation, very simply, forget a stage show where monitoring is something which we all know has a problem. But even when you're doing video conferencing, you don't have to keep muting and unmuting your mic every time, because if your speaker is, instead of your phone speaker being on or your laptop speaker being on, which causes a feedback loop, as you know, it's always better to have a headphone which is there. It helps with that. Now, I'm not sure if that answers really what was the in-ear question specifically, but there are different models available, and there are different brands available. Not necessarily that the more expensive ones are better. In fact, this theory I'm just sharing with everyone in the long way. I'm not saying that more expensive and branded products are not better. Of course they are. But what I am saying is that in today's day, even lower cost equipment and mics and headphones are not that bad anymore, because the times have changed. Today, the same technology is available at a much lower cost. Now, what really makes the difference is the texture that particular brand brings to it. For example, when you're using a certain quality condenser mic, whether it's a Neumann, whether it's a Manley, whatever you want to, whichever one you want to take, DPAs, each of them have a certain texture they bring to your voice. That texture is what I would invest in a certain mic for. I wouldn't invest in it because of the electronic circuitry or the capability anymore. They're all pretty much the same in everything, whether it's a mic, whether it's a speaker. They're getting very close to what couldn't be done earlier, So, okay. No, I'm not switching mics. Where I was actually connecting and disconnecting the mics from the phone. So, fortunately for me, this is a test which I did with Dhanya and Bhakti, that Zoom as a software and an app allows me that when I disconnect, and it doesn't get confused. And it instantly recognizes what is the input connector. It's auto sensing. So for example, when it's on the through the OTG connector, it would automatically recognize the mic coming in as a USB. And when it was from the headphone, it automatically recognized that too. So that's the way. But this presentation, as I explained to you, is the optimum ways to go through a mixer. So I simply just fade out, and then I fade in my live mic. I just fade in my live mic. So that's my lapel mic, and as you can see, it picks up a lot more of ambience noise. And then this is now back to my thing. So switching between mics is very straightforward if you have a mixer next to you. Going through obviously the audio interface computer, then you need to switch things and back and forth. Okay, great presentation, thank you. Yes, apps and best for an Android for recording. Well, it keeps changing every day. There are various apps which are there, so I suggest just do an internet search and you should be able to find it. Sometimes the best audio recording is even there on your phone itself. You don't need anything more. And if you want to really go professional and you're willing to spend a little bit, you today even have complicated softwares like Cubase and stuff like that available on the Android for about 3,000 or 4,000 rupees also. So that's also another way which allows you to do everything from editing to adding reverb to compression to everything. There are 2-3 other, I think, new apps which have also come in. I don't know much about them as yet. I just downloaded them because they were interesting. Something called BandLab is also there. Apart from that, lots of manufacturers, iRigs also has, so many people have. They have lots of apps which you can use and manage to do it for audio if you're looking at. They also have iPhone equivalents, so you can also look at that. A few apps, yes, are only on the iPhone and not yet on the Android because the iOS basically is very secure. So it's not open to accessing the phone processing power. So sometimes some apps are very heavy on the phone, and if your phone is not fast enough, it would struggle with it. So that's another thing. What is there? So the different mics, as I explained, there were lots of, Rupak, there were different mics. I mean, brands are, as I said, don't want to get into because there are just too many of them. But the different kinds of mics I explained this is a cardioid mic. It's a dynamic mic, so it requires you to be close. Condenser mic, I explained earlier, has a lot more texture, but they require a lot more power. So they have to be connected via USB or through a mixer or through a sound card. Lav mics have the benefit that they are omnidirectional. So they can pick up a lot more without movement issues and stuff like that. And today you have also USB mics available which have all the 3 patterns, so you could base it on what you're looking at for yourself. Softwares OBS, yes, are great. I'm using OBS right now, as I explained. Would be lovely to use. Not as complex as it looks initially, but yes, it requires you to be a little conversant with a laptop or a computer and a little bit of chaos which normally happens very often with software updates. I panicked this morning because I have an update both for OBS and an update also for I use a Windows laptop, Windows 10 and the latest version. So I panicked and I just disenabled both. So for 8 days, because that's the biggest problem. I had a concert once when I was traveling to Raipur for a concert, and that same morning I just decided to do practice, and my Windows did an update, and it just destroyed my keyboard access, my control surface. Everything just stopped working. How I pulled that concert off, I know, but it was really tough because I couldn't access anything. Effects is great. You can use the effects inbuilt of your mixer, and in fact I do want to share another interesting development happening, as I said, again thanks to the pandemic. Very soon we are having mixers which can get powered straight off from the phone, so you don't really need a power supply for it either, or it can even run on a battery backup if necessary, power bank. So that's another way to do it. Disappointed with tabla sound every time I go live on. Now the problem is, how are you going live? Is the instrument placed through your mixer? Is it connected, or if you're using it? I use a SoundCloud mixer and you still have that. Well, that means that you're not following the correct the way to connect the Lehra machine or your phone output if it's from the phone Lehra app. Connect it using a correct cable if you can. I don't see why that should not, because I do that myself. And if you visit any of my live shows, stream shows, I basically use a Tabla app, or I also use Tabla loops, which I play back sometimes from my laptop or from my phone itself. So it should not be a problem if you're using a mixer. and also if you're using, because there's no mic involved, it's a direct output from the quality of the wave file or whatever your Tabla app or Lehra app is playing with. So see, work on that and it should not be an issue to develop that. Kya baat hai ji, yes, thank you. Easiest way of adding reverb, as I said, if I'm using video recording on your phone, oh, that's a tough one, because if you've already recorded a video, then you have to obviously take that audio into any software, and like if in your phone, if you have BandLab, you can, or Cubase, you can take it in, add reverb, and then you have to marry the audio file back with the picture file again. Yes, as I said, tomorrow, once these audio interfaces are there, are already as the mixers are there, then while you're recording on your video, if your app allows it, you can use an app like Open Camera. If you're not going directly onto Facebook or Instagram, that app will allow you to actually record with the reverb from your mixer and the reverb also from your audio interface. Do realize that another important aspect which the third-party apps allow is that they allow you to actually check your volume, your level of your mic. You can't see that in the video inbuilt stock app which comes with your mobile phone. And without an audio interface, adding the reverb, as I said, would only be possible post. Well, let's not speak too soon, because I hope that the phone manufacturers and app manufacturers are listening, and it'll also be as a part of your video when you're recording it. It's possible. It's just a matter of the app allowing it and your phone being fast enough. So the mic going on to Smule or anything, as I said, these are all the possibilities I gave you. One can be use the 1/8 inch mic, or you can use a USB input. Your phone should allow both of these, as I explained, and then you can access your app, whichever allows you. Now you have to make sure that the app that you're using for karaoke allows you to have access to the OTG connector for the sound. Now, as I explained, the app like WhatsApp does not allow. Apps like the phone itself does not allow. I'm sorry, I don't do much of karaoke, and so I'm not into. I don't have knowledge of Smule and Star Maker, but I do recall some of my friends who have sent me, references of stuff they are doing through these apps. I seem to hear a reverb there, so I'm not sure whether that reverb is from their karaoke mic itself or whether it is from the app itself. Lighting, as I explained to you, these are the ways to do it. It's no rocket science. There are lots of reasonable lights available now online. They don't cost the sky. As I explained again, don't have direct light always. It's always nice to have reflected light, and it would give a lovely smooth texture. And as I said, it's more about the shadow. As my friend said, it's more about the shadows and not about the light itself. What mixes like... So the same thing. I mean, there's no extra. I mean, this is a vast field of which softwares and equipments that can be used for making mixes. So Rasori mein kaun tha. Now these are all not complex things to do, as long as you. This is the methods of connecting. Beyond that, the creative part is another ball game completely. Okay, when I use a lapel, I feel my voice changes. Yes, I do agree that the lav mic changes your texture, but do realize it's very critical where you're placing it, as I explained to you. If you're doing a lapel mic, so as I said to you, see how much the texture of the lapel mic changes when it's this way now, for example, or it's this way. So yes, a lav will change your texture, because lav by default is pinned to your chest, so it's hearing more of your chest voice. Now, if you're a student of Western music, you will understand what is called a chest voice and what is not now, or a head voice as we call it now. So this it's picking up more of the chesty kind of sound, so that's why the lav changes it. But if you feel that you need to be able to do it, then figure out some kind of a mic. Now I also used to feel the same, so what I've done is I've bought myself a little small tripod, and I've put a little stick in the front of it, and therefore whenever I'm speaking on the video, the mic is kind of pointing like this to me, slightly hidden. So you'll see that this keeps my texture pretty much the same. But then you need a tripod which is kind of holding it at this distance over here. You can't have a tripod very far away, because again the same thing happens. But use your imagination. There are ways to do it, and You won't be surprised, there are a lot of things available online too, like this tripod I found online. The same kind of mics can be used for YouTube or any software, so there's no rocket science to that. Okay, now I hope I've covered most of this. Okay, this lip sync issue, yes, is very critical. It may not be only you. There is always a subtle delay which does happen, which is irritating. Now, if you use a software like OBS, you can get around to reducing that. Sorry, why am I talking so far away? I just told you. Let's get back to my mic. Yes, I love this. Yeah. Now, the sync can be connected. There is an option available to you in OBS, which just allows you to delay the sound so that it matches with the picture. But now it's a little complex, and if you are familiar with all of that, then you should be able to do it. Now, if you're going live straight away, as I said, forget all this complication. Just connect your mic to your sound card if you want, reverb and all, and go straight to live to Facebook or to Instagram. And with all the reverb and everything, there will be no delay on your lip sync. Okay, now there's another interesting thing to understand, that when you go live streaming, there is a stream delay which happens, which is as much as 10 to maybe even 30 seconds. So what you're speaking now is actually being broadcast live on Instagram or Facebook about as much as 30 seconds, maybe 10 to 30 seconds later. So you expecting people to react to what you said just now, their reactions will come 15, 20, maybe 30 seconds later. So that's another important aspect to consider. Now, if lip sync issue is another issue, that's a latency which is linked to how complex you're doing it. If I was going straight now onto a Zoom directly to you, bypassing going through the setup which has been arranged by NCPA, that latency would be much, much lesser. But because I'm going through their portal and going through all of that, it obviously adds a little bit here and there. So you can work at it. There are options available. I haven't been very successful in that as yet, yes, to be very frank, but yes, you can do so. It's not so problem. Video to cigar, yes. So this is another thing, the auto sensing feature, which switched off, unfortunately, my because I was on my phone to show you, but I couldn't give away the fact that I had a green screen behind me, so I could not enable the camera of my mobile phone at that time. That fun would have gone away. So yes, I use a DAW or a digital audio workstation, which everyone says. That's mainly for my keyboard. And OBS is obviously for the sound. Now, yes, it's a little complex. Your question is more specific. If I can see your question is not necessarily about the input-output, but basically from the fact that if I was running Cubase on my same laptop on which I had OBS, this is a very complex setup then, that I would require then a loopback audio software. Now, what is a loopback audio? It basically, when you have a software on a laptop, it takes sound output portals, input and output. Any one app. So you can't have two, like you can't have Zoom and WhatsApp at the same time, right? So the phone can't handle it because the WhatsApp has taken over your phone mic and your speaker. At the same time, the processing power required for that WhatsApp call. So to have Zoom at the same time would be fiasco. I mean, it can't do it. So similarly, in a laptop, that happens. But to allow that, because you have a capable laptop, you have softwares. I won't get into that today. It's a little complex. But you can find softwares which allow you. They patch basically internally. They work like an internal mixer. And they can route everything out through one thing. So OBS, as you are saying, as a software, allows me to send sound and video. And internally, everything can be mixed through those softwares. And you can do it. Yes, I'm using, since I am not on an Apple, so I have a voice meter, which is there, which can be used. And it helps to basically do all of this. Hi, Kimli. Yes, what a voice. Thank you. You have one too. Okay, so OTG condenser mic is very simple. I mean, you don't need to go by this one only. This is a mic which I've borrowed from a close friend of mine. Basically, it's a Rode mic which I'm using as a condenser. You can go with AKG. AKG has a Lyra, which is very, very, very nice mic which can be used too, which has lots of polar patterns. Now, the term is polar pattern for a mic when it how it picks up the which polarity it's picking up from and from where. So you can look at that. But the sky is the limit. I mean, but as I explained to you today, there are a lot of cheaper options which have come in. Do realize that they don't have the experience we had. The same thing we're talking about the vaccine, and we haven't done the trials properly. So all new products, obviously, and new brands which have got into it, you're trying your luck on it to see if it works. But they're much cheaper, so you could at least start your performance. Okay, so audio interface name you want to know? Well, I particularly, because I've grown up on these, I'm using a Motu, but I love Universal Audio, which also has some great, though expensive, audio interfaces, which are lovely. You could look at the new Steinberg ones also, which are there. There are so many audio interfaces today, so Focusrite, which are also very good. They all have a very good, now, as I explained, they all add a certain texture, a certain characteristic to your sound. So it's not necessary that what I have you would like or what you have I like. It also depends on the kind of music that you're doing. So it's not that simple once you get into that, but then don't get into that. I mean, at the end of the day, focus on your music and just make sure that you're getting good quality sound out, which is not distorted, which has full bandwidth. And because eventually a lot of us are hearing it on the phone or hearing it on the laptop speaker, majority of the consumers today. So what are we talking about in terms of that? So as long as the texture is something you want, like one of my friends wanted a certain mic, so I suggested this will lend a lot of texture, to your voice, because your style of singing is, that which it can capture well. So when I deal with NCPA also, there have been many shows which I have done where I would curate the sound. And I would meet up with a lot of the artists, classical artists, who would, ask me that, can I use my own mic? And then I would, in the initial years, yes, I would have to, accept it or fight with them in a polite way, obviously. Over a period of years, as they gained confidence in me, today, if I say it, they listen. So it feels good. But mic for a different place, audio interface as per your tonality of sound. 10-year-old voiceover artist. Wow, that's lovely, Arush. So, yes, the notable difference is definitely there. And yes, Prachi, thank you. Wow. Shravani, as usual, yes. So, I'm sure you must be happy with the mic which you've picked up. And elaborate a little bit on how to different apps and exchange the recording. So, most of, as I said today, apps are being developed constantly, and they allow you to have a better quality of processors involved. So I guess it's also linked to, like, there's a very interesting Tabla app which I was trying to reach out to a person he's written an app for Tabla. He's based in Australia, so I had reached out to say that, listen, can I use it on an older phone, because I cannot block up my phone for this. I need to use the phone for streaming. So can I play it from an older phone? And he clearly got back and said, sir, the app requires so much of processing power that it won't work on an old phone. You need to have some of the latest phones. So you need to have a good phone. Unfortunately or fortunately, with this, you need a good battery on your phone if you're going to be going everything through the phone. Having said that, most of the stuff coming out today is very capable. So, there's no reason. Even the low-end phones, they can do a lot. So I don't think that's really such a big issue anymore. Lav mics for Android. So I'm not getting into brands, but I've said it earlier. You don't necessarily need to go with what you can't afford right now. Whatever you can afford right now, go for it. It will definitely be... But as I said, the positioning is very critical. It's more important than anything else. If I did this whole presentation like this, what would be the point of doing so? So I understand this mic and I understand it well. So I'm using it to my benefit. And these small things can really make a difference to your presentation. So panels, yes. The panels is no rocket science. As I said, the net is full of it. But yes, I designed them with a lot of love and finish. This nice pine wood, which I have, German pine wood, which gives it a nice finish. It's a nice polish around it. And I use extremely heavy density mineral wool. I don't use glass wool anymore. If you Google online, sorry, I don't want to use the word Google online. If you go to the internet, you will get a lot of possibilities that and videos and what to do. There's no rocket science, but yes, if somebody makes it for you, it's a big hassle because you have irritation in the skin when you're dealing with these materials. Then the panels are heavy. Then also the glues and all these things. You need to have a space for it. So maybe worthwhile to get somebody to make them for you or buy them online. There's so many options. Foam is also an option, but superior to a foam, according to me, is to go with mineral wool because it's more dense and it has a lot more, proven track record, as we call it. But there's so many options there. I mean, you can look at there. Yes, I've already said mixers, sound interfaces are getting compatible with mobile phones. They already are. Cost effective now is a subjective word, so I don't know what it is. But yes, if you do a search online, you will slowly start getting a lot of information about it. But I should expect them to be. There are some which are as cheap as 3,000 to 5,000, and there are others which are right up to over $1.5 lakh, maybe 3. So my current interface, audio interface, doesn't directly work on the mobile phone, so I have to connect it to a laptop. But and that's an expensive one, which was bought because it's a very capable one. You don't need so many. It's got 16 inputs. It's got mic inputs. It's got lots of connections. It's got digital input and out. You may not need it. I use it more also for my mixing, sound mixing. So that's why. I'm a magician. Thank you, Prachi. Okay. You're all musicians too. I'm happy to see that I have a lot of artists with me today too. I wish more artists would actually start to use this, share knowledge that we have. Unfortunately, most artists, for some reason, don't share the knowledge. What I always say, the challenge should be on your musical talent. And let's see how good you are with your own music and not with, things like these. But yes, it only helps to have all of this so that you are more comfortable when you are in a place. I would be very uncomfortable, and I think Suvarna ji will add to that. Whenever I have done a presentation or I've done a small show at NCPA, she's seen what I go through in prepping up, and I'm still not happy till the sound starts, and then I've forgotten about everything. Like today also, I was very nervous before, but once it started, whether it works or doesn't work, it's fine. I'm with you all. And you're with me. I can see the feedback coming. Shravani, green screen is not an app, but it's a whole procedure. Do a little online on it. Requires a lot of pain, so it's very painful. But yes, it was a challenge for me, so I did it, and it's amazing if you can do it. So it may be better that there are places like I have a friend who has a studio where he set up a green screen. Visit such places because now everything is opening up right now. So the earlier thing that you had to perform, online, live, and people are meeting up more and more now. I've been attending a few recordings where I go with all of us tested before. If you all know, NCPA is opening up soon too, I think in February. So slowly it is going to happen. So whether it's going to happen full scale is going to take at least, who knows, 6 to 8 months. But it would be worthwhile to just go and, take it from there. Visit a place which has a green screen set up so you don't have to get into that. The lights are set up for it correctly because lighting a green screen is more important than lighting yourself. So it's a double lighting job. I don't know if you can notice, there is a tinge of green even on my face because that's called green spill. So things like that. Okay, so where am I? Thank you for the team type of mic to be used. I said that. Okay, I think I'm done. It says 10 new messages, but where am I? Dhanya, anything I've missed?
I think so not. You've answered everything from the Q&A, I guess. So I think that should be fine.
Q&A I did. Then I'm seeing your chat, which is pretty much a copy paste of most of these, right? So
yes,
I saw that was fine, but it's showing me in red some 10 new.
Yeah, that's from the Q&A, I guess.
So it says, what is the key strategy that can improve sound quality of tabla in a live show? Now that is something, are you talking about a live show or a live stream? Now, In a live show, obviously things are very different because then you are looking at monitors, and then you're looking at the kind of mic based on those monitors. You're looking at the PA of the venue. NCPA is a live venue, so it requires you to be very selective in your number of monitors and the kind of mic. If you're in a different kind of a venue which is very acoustically treated, so the it depends on the kind of the show that you're doing. In a live show that way, then obviously the mic, even sometimes a good old 57 works well, sometimes a 58 also works, and good mics, whether it's a DPA or even Telefunken, there's so many brands which can be used for that, will sound great on a tabla too. Shure is there, and Sennheiser, of course. So on a live stream, yes, you have so much more possibility because you're in a closed space yourself. So you can use any good condenser mic also, and it would give you sizzle on the tabla. I love a mic called the Spark, Blue Spark, which is one of my favorites, and it sounds great on the tabla also. But you could get away with great sound even on a good 57 on that. But the complexity of the chain is obviously how do you power it up if it's a condenser? Do you connect it to a mixer? Do you connect it to an audio interface? So all those things. So do go through this presentation that I have done today 2-3 times on once it's put up, because I've moved too fast in too much, in one shot. This is whatever I've shared today has been learned over a period of 8 to 9 months, so, and I'm sharing it very quickly on this. Vocals stable with the notes of a song, that is now music. So something which is not part of this scope, but yes, just to say that yes, it's extremely important to have a very stable note. I mean, it would be, and dynamism in your singing is very important, as I had said. Ranjish hi sahi, दिल ही दुखाने के लिए रंजिशें सही फिर से मुझे छोड़ के जाने के लिए रंजिशें सही. Okay, so what next? Anubhav, thank you for all the praise. Great to end with this song. Oh, okay. I don't know how far we've reached already. The song would be lovely. Yes, Bina. Fortunate to have you as a friend. Now, I'm not sure what to really react for the Rasode Mein Kaun Tha question which is there about mixes. I'm sorry, I'm not so familiar with it, but the little that I know about it, that's more editing than but I'm sorry, I really should not venture into something I don't know. So okay, so where am I? Still awaiting performance. Danya Suvarnaji, what do I do? Do I do one antra very quickly, or we should wind up?
Yes, Gauravji. And then maybe we can wind up. Because
I didn't give you a choice, right? So, okay, so my favorite ghazal. This is by, it's in Yemen, but it's by my mentor and father figure. He's a lovely writer. So it's so true of today कि इस दुनिया में समझाने से आखिर कौन समझता है, इस दुनिया में समझाने से आखिर कौन समझता है, जब तक कोई खाए न ठोकर, गिर कर कौन संभलता है। इस दुनिया में समझाने से आखिर कौन समझता है। छुपता नहीं छुपाते आखिर, दुनिया जान ही जाती है। छुपता नहीं छुपाते आखिर, दुनिया जान ही जाती है। बहुत दबाते हैं दिल में तो, बहुत दबाते हैं दिल में तो, आँख से दर्द छलकता है। जब तक कोई खाए न ठोकर, गिर कर कौन संभलता है। इस दुनिया में समझाने से आखिर कौन समझता है। Once again, thank you everyone, and thank you so much for this lovely time that I can share with you my experiences. Okay, Suvarna ji, Dhanya.
Thank you so much,
Bhakti,
Gaurav ji.
go ahead.
Lovely having you over. Thanks on behalf of the NCPA and the HSBC team. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
My pleasure,
Thank you so
absolutely.
much, Gaurav ji. Thank you so much.
So, just one word that since they've taken so much of effort in this, if you've gained something from this, then please reach out and acknowledge it to NCPA and HSBC. And as an artist, we all love appreciation. To give me a shout out too. And thank you so much for being part of today. Thank you so very much.